type menu. It is a parallax scrolling with different planes on different levels, and you can click on the button here in 3D space to start the game. And somebody asked me to show y'all how this was made. So I'm going to give you a quick tutorial on how to do that. And this is not a Blender tutorial, but I will show you quickly on how you can achieve those panels that I made in a really easy way. But if you're not familiar with Blender, then I suggest you look up some tutorials on Blender and how to do that. So if you open up Blender, you just delete the main cube by pressing delete, then Shift A, Mesh, Plane, and go to Top View by clicking the blue Z, into Edit Mode by clicking Tab, and then press K on your keyboard, K to get the knife tool. And with the knife tool, you can just click on different points to get shapes, like so. And then you click Enter, and 3 on your keyboard to select the plane in the middle. So Enter and then the number 3, and right click, delete faces, so you get the hole in the middle. Tab again to go to object mode, then Shift A for another plane. Same method, so with that plane selected, you do Tab and then K, and you make another set of cuts. Usually works best if you make a little bit different cuts, but it doesn't really matter for this one. The design will be minimal, so 3 on your keyboard and select the middle plane, delete faces, and Tab to go to object mode. Then I'll add one more plane for this tutorial. So Shift A, Mesh, Plane, and then I'll name them properly. So front, mid, and back. Come on, yes. Back. Keep it simple. In this case, select all of your planes like so. And then File, Export, FBX. And name them as Diorama planes or something similar. Make sure you export with mesh and selected objects, that they are selected as well, and that you have your X forward and Z up. Export FBX. Actually, we might select all of the mid, front, back, and then rotate with R on, is it Y on the X axis? So R and then X, and then in the rotate you can do 90. So you get them the right way up. And it might also be nice to just already again, this is not a Blender tutorial, so if you don't know how to do this, I'm sorry. I will add the files. I'm just going to turn them this way. X front 90. There you go. I want the back to go back a little bit. The middle to go to the middle. So with G on your keyboard, if you select the plane and then hit G and then the X, you move something in the X direction. And this way you can separate them a little bit. So G, X, if you select the plane, like so. And then select all of them again. File, Export, FBX. I can go to the same export there. Then go into your Unreal Engine. And this is just most basic third-person template, so nothing special. Simple template. clean file. And first thing you're going to do is make a new level. So file, new level, and then click the empty level, this one, create. And then file, save current level. And I want to save it to the map I made for this tutorial. But you gotta save it to your own maps for levels or something. And then L_YouTube menu for me. There you go. Then we're going to import the content browser and then click import. And then you have to see where you save those FBXs. So SM Diorama for me. I'm not sure if this is the one where we called it the planes. It's Diorama planes, right? In this one. Yeah, okay. So content browser, import Diorama planes. And then it's important that you don't click combine meshes because you need the separate layers. And if you want, you can create the materials inside Blender, but for me, I always use do not create material because I want to create the materials in Unreal Engine myself. And that is it. So import. And there you have your layers. So now you can open them and give them a texture. In this case, I'm just going to keep it simple. These are the original textures already available in the third-person content. So nothing special, just colors. Save. And the last one, double click. Give it a material. Oh, I want the red one. And save. And you can close those again. Like so. Then select all of them and drag them into your scene. Like so. Let's see, I like to put them on 0, 0, 0, so we see where we are. And then from the add button here on the top, you type Cine Camera and you add a Cine Camera actor. You can see that the camera is pointing that way and our planes are here. So select your planes and drag them to this way. Then you can select your camera and drag it so that the view is right. You can either drag the panels or the camera itself, but you want them into the view, of course. Like so. That looks good. Then we are going to make this into an actor. So select your panels and then on this button, I don't even know what the button is called, but if you click on it, it says convert selection to blueprint class. And then harvest components, name it correctly. So BP for blueprint actor, and then underscore diorama. Diorama. I'll keep it at that. And then select the right folder. For me, it's already in the right folder, but if you want a different folder, you have to select it here and go ahead. A new blueprint actor should open up like this with your panels inside. And then you can go to the event graph. Just delete these two bottom nodes. You don't need them. And from here, we're going to go right click, get relative rotation. Relative rotation. It's not there. Let's see. Get actor rotation. We'll do that. Get actor rotation. Click. And then drag off that pin. Promote to variable. And we call it base rotation. And connect the execution pin like so. Then you're going to want to click all of your panels. You should name them more properly, probably, but just, oh, no. don't do that. Just click all of them, then drag them into your event graph, and drag off one of the pins, type make array, like so. And you want to connect all of them, so you can add more pins, like so. And then drag off the array pin and promote to a variable as well. I'll call them diorama layers. Such. There you go. I will also add all the files for this in the description below, so you can search or study the files and the code if you want. And I will add the panels, but that's not very important, I suppose. Then drag off this, or drag the new variable in, it doesn't matter, but drag off that and do a for each loop. So a for each loop execution pin into there. And then drag off the array element pin and type get a relative location, like so. And you want to make a, not a macro, a variable. I'll go back to the event graph first, do that again. So you're going to want to make a variable here that is layer locations, and that's of the type vector, the yellow one. And then in the details panel, you can make it from a single to an array here. Compile and save. Drag in your array, and from the array pin you can do add. I would usually do add unique into there, and then drag this one off into there, and you'll have a list of all the locations of the layers, like so. Then we're going to convert the camera, the scenic camera, into an actor as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to do it like that. I will delete this one, and then in the content browser we can just make a blueprint class. So content browser, right click, blueprint class, and normal actor, top one. I will call it BP cam rig, and double click to open that up. We do not need anything in the event graph here, so just delete the nodes, but in the components here, add a spring arm, like so. And to the spring arm, you can attach the Cine camera, like that. So make sure it's a child of the spring arm, like so. Compile and save, and we can close that one. Then from the content browser, you can drag your camera rig into the scene and drag it like so, that it's in your, the diorama is in your view again, like so. And then you're going to want to go into the content browser to make a controller, because your default controller won't control this scene. We want to make a new controller, so right click, blueprint class, and then player controller, this one, called BP PC YouTube menu. Double click to open that, and let's see, in here you can drag the tick a bit more down, because in here we're going to make a few variables first. So down at the variables, we're going to make parallax current x underscore x, and that's of the type float, like so. And then you can duplicate it for the y as well, like so. And we're going to want another float, which is called yaw max, and same for the pitch max. This is going to control the rotation, So it's called yaw, pitch, and roll in Unreal Engine for rotating. So the last one will be roll, max. If you compile and save, you can give all of these a base value here on the right, the details panel. So set a base value of like 20, but this is whatever you're going to prefer. You're going to have to test it out. For me, I like 20, but it depends on your preferences. Compile and save. Then from the begin play node, drag off and type show mouse cursor. This is obviously going to show the mouse cursor in play. So click the check box here. And from there, let me see, we're going to want a reference to our camera rig and to our diorama. So from the execution pin, you can drag off and get all actors of class. And in the little select class, you type your camera rig, BP cam rig, select, drag off the array pin, and do get a copy. And when you drag off from this execution pin, you can do promote a variable first. I call it cam rig. Pretty simple. And then either you drag off from here, but I like to drag the new variable into the scene. If you hold Control on your keyboard and you drag a variable in, you will get it. And if you hold Alt on your keyboard and drag it in, you can set it. So normally if you just drag it in, you have to choose between the two. So I usually do the Control or Alt thing. From that pin, you're going to drag off and type blend view, set view, target view with blend. That's what it's called. Set view target with blend. Execution pin in there. And from the target, you want to drag off and type self, because this is the controller that we want to use for it. Compose and compile and save. And we're going to do the same thing for the diorama we made. So get all actors of class and then search for your BP diorama actor. There you go. Drag off the array pin and get a copy. And we promote this to a variable as well. And I call it just diorama. Life is pretty simple sometimes. And for now, that is everything you want to do in the start or begin play. So we'll move on to the event tick right here. And right click, get mouse position, this one. And you also want the screen size, viewport size. Yes. So get the viewport size and the mouse position. Right click on this pin and do split. So you get the X and Y values separate. And then you want to drag off your X. And let me think about the math again. I'm so good at math. Divide. You get the divide 2 times. And divide from X and divide from Y, like so. And then you put the X from the same one. So X into X, like so. And Y into Y. So make sure that they cross like so. And top one, bottom one. It's important. Then you're going to do a times or multiply node like so. And that's at 2. And then if you click on the node and do Control D to duplicate it, you add it here as well. Then finally, you're going to do drag off the multiply and subtract. And that's going to be just a 1. Again, Control D on that node to duplicate it and add it here as well, or subtract it here as well. So these are your targets. Now this is going to be promoted into... Yeah. Now this is the target. So if you want, you can name these things target X and target Y, like so. And now you want to right click and look for F interp 2 and also 2 of those, like so. And you're going to plug everything in. So we have the Parallax X current goes into the current here. Then the target is this X target. Delta time comes from the tick. So delta time. And the interp speed we're going to make 7, but you can tweak this a little bit for yourself. And the same for the Y. So get your Parallax Y into current. The target is this one, target delta time from your tick, sorry. And interp speed also 7. These you're going to want to save into the currents. So set node for your Parallax current X. That one into there. Drag off the execution pin into there. And also set the Y. So Parallax current Y, F interp Y into there. There you go. And then this is going to rotate the diorama. So drag in your diorama and get root component. Get root all the way down the bottom, get root component. And from the root you do set a relative rotation, like so. You can connect the execution pin. And from here we want the base rotation variable that we made in the diorama. So in your diorama we set the base rotation variable. So drag off the diorama and get base rotation. If you right click this execution pin, you can split it. And here we're going to do some more math. Get your X and Y currents and do a multiply for both, like so. And here you want to add or multiply with the, let's see, yaw mix for the X. Drag in your yaw mix and then the pitch max for your Y, like so. And then let's see, I thought, yeah, okay. Add here and another one for your pitch. So you got to make sure you plug the right ones into the right math node. So your X is going to go into the yaw, X into yaw, and then here split struct spin, and also into yaw, like so. It can get a little confusing with the lines sometimes, so be careful that you drag the right node. So your Parallax Y with the pitch max into the pitch add and into the pitch rotation, like so. And that is all the math we're going to do for this one. We need to do for this one. After this, you could also do a nice set location if you want, but that's optional. This is enough to make the parallax move. The only thing we're going to need now is to make a game mode. So in the content browser, right click blueprint class and make your game mode base, this one, and GM underscore YouTube menu, and double click to open your game mode. Then you don't need to do anything in event graph here, but just go to the details panel and well, for the sake of it, just do no HUD and your default pawn class also to none. And lastly, you're going to want to select your player controller class with the new one that you made. For me, the BPPC YouTube menu. Compile and save. And if everything went right, we should be able to press play. Fail to spawn player controller. Why is that? Let me see. Good question. Couldn't spawn player. I don't want a player, I just want to play a controller. All right, I found the issue. I had a little break to look into it, but if you go into your Windows on the top bar here, and then you click World Settings, and in the World Settings, you're going to want to check if your game mode override is your game mode that we made. So the game mode YouTube menu for me, and then player controller class to the controller that we made as well. And then if you click play, you should have your rotating diorama like so. And of course, this is very basic. So what I've made was way more layers and lighting and location movement as well. So all of that you can do and personalize, but this is the basic version of what you need for the Parallax menu. And something that you can add to make it a real menu with clickable buttons is the widget. So in your browser, you can, content browser, you can right click, user interface, and add a widget blueprint, use a widget, and call it W menu, for example. Double click to open, and in your designer, we can add a canvas panel. So type canvas, drag it in like so. And it depends on what you're going to want here, but usually it's nice to then have a button to be able to start or click start. So drag in a button, and with your button selected, I'm going to anchor it in the middle like so. You can make it a little bit bigger. And then on the left hand side, you can drag in a text on the button there. And in the text block, you can type start, for example. I'm not going to do the whole tutorial on how to make the user interface nice, but you can design and do everything as you want, of course. I can show you that you can do the transparent button as well. Not on the, on the button, opacity. Wait. Background color, this one. For example, like that, you can make a transparent button. So you just have the text, but it doesn't really matter. For this purpose, I make it a little bit visible so you can see where it will be. And then in your controller, at the begin play nodes, or at the end of it, you can do create widget. So create a widget like so. Then select the widget that you just made, menu, drag off this return value and do add to viewport. And that's it. Yes. You can promote it to a variable as well to be able to use events or functions that you make in the widget or spawn things, of course, and all that. But now we should have the start button, like so. Obviously, it doesn't do anything right now, but if you go to your menu and do the graph, you can click on the button and add your code to it. So just drag over here and add any code that you like. But that's it for the tutorial. If you have any questions, please ask me in the comments below. If you want to see any other tutorials, then also tell me. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. Hi everyone, I'm Rekka Noodle, and recently for my game Fray Revelation, I've made this cool parallax type